Once upon a time, in a land filled with sparkling rivers and castles made of gingerbread, lived a princess named Penelope. But nobody called her that. Everyone called her Princess Pickle, because she loved pickles more than anything in the whole wide world. She had pickle-flavored ice cream, pickle-patterned dresses, and even a tiny pet dragon named Dill, who smelled faintly of, you guessed it, pickles. Princess Pickle wasn't just a pickle enthusiast. She was also learning magic. Her teacher was a wise old wizard named Professor Plum, who had a beard so long he sometimes tripped on it. One sunny afternoon, Professor Plum gave Princess Pickle a very important assignment. "Your task," he said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder, "is to practice the growing spell. It makes things bigger. Try it on this tiny strawberry." He placed a strawberry the size of a ladybug on the table. Princess Pickle was so excited. A real spell. She held her sparkly wand, took a deep breath, and shouted the magic words, "Flibberty-gibbet, grow so bigot." But as she said the words, her mind wandered. She was thinking about lunch. Specifically, she was thinking about a big, juicy, crunchy pickle. Poof! A cloud of green smoke filled the room. When it cleared, the tiny strawberry was gone. In its place stood a pickle jar. But it wasn't just any pickle jar. It was a giant pickle jar, as tall as the castle tower. And inside, floating in the green brine, was Professor Plum, looking very surprised and very, very green. "Oh dear," whispered Princess Pickle. She hadn't meant to turn her teacher into a pickle. Well, he wasn't exactly a pickle, but he was trapped inside a giant pickle jar. "Professor, are you okay?" she called out, her voice trembling. Professor Plum's voice echoed from inside the jar. "Penelope, I'm quite all right, just a bit soggy. It seems your spell went a little sour." Princess Pickle giggled nervously. A sour spell. That was a good one. But this was no time for jokes. She had to get him out. She tried the spell again, aiming at the jar. Flibberty-gibbet. Shrink so little. But nothing happened. The jar just wobbled. She tried pushing it, but it was too heavy. She tried tapping it with her wand, but it just made a clink sound. Her pet dragon, Dill, zipped around her head, squeaking with worry. "Don't worry, Dill," she said, patting his tiny head. "I'm the one who made this mess, and I'm the one who's going to fix it." She knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed help. She needed the royal knights. She ran to the castle courtyard where the royal knights were practicing their tiptoeing skills. They were the bravest, strongest knights in the land, but they were also very quiet. "Knights," she panted. "I need your help. I accidentally trapped Professor Plum in a giant pickle jar." The knights, Sir Reginald the Responsible, and Sir Barnaby the Brave, stopped tiptoeing and stared at her. "A pickle jar, Your Highness?" asked Sir Reginald, adjusting his shiny helmet. "A giant one," she confirmed, "and we have to get him out." The knights followed her to the magic classroom. When they saw the enormous jar, their eyes went wide. "By my shiny boots!" exclaimed Sir Barnaby. "That is indeed a pickle of a problem." They tried everything. Sir Reginald, being the responsible one, tried to unscrew the lid. He grunted and groaned and pulled with all his might, his face turning as red as a tomato, but the lid wouldn't budge. Sir Barnaby, being the brave one, tried to break the glass with his sword. But the magical glass was too strong. His sword just bounced right off with a loud bong. Princess Pickle sat down on the floor, feeling her hope start to fizzle like a flat soda. This was all her fault. If only she hadn't been thinking about pickles. Just then, a little squeak came from her shoulder. It was Dill. He flew down and nudged the spell book with his nose. "The spell book!" Princess Pickle cried, jumping up. "Of course! The answer must be in here!" She flipped through the thick, dusty pages. She saw spells for turning teacups into turtles and spells for making pancakes fly. Finally, she found the section on spell reversals. She read the page carefully. It said that to reverse a spell gone wrong, you needed to perform the original spell, but with an opposite ingredient and a heartfelt apology. Opposite ingredient? She wondered aloud. What's the opposite of a pickle? Sir Reginald stroked his chin thoughtfully. Well, pickles are sour and salty. So, we need something sweet, finished Sir Barnaby, his eyes lighting up. Sweet, like honey, Princess Pickle shouted. She ran to the royal kitchen. The royal chef, a cheerful woman with flour on her nose, was humming while baking a cake. Chef, I need the biggest jar of honey you have. It's an emergency. The chef handed her a huge pot of golden gooey honey. It was so heavy that Sir Barnaby had to help her carry it. They raced back to the classroom. Now for the hard part, the apology. Princess Pickle stood in front of the giant jar. She looked at Professor Plum, who gave her a little wave from inside. She took a deep breath. Professor Plum, she said, her voice clear and strong. I'm so sorry. I wasn't concentrating. I was thinking about lunch instead of my lesson. I promise to always pay attention from now on. She felt a warm tingle in her heart. She knew she meant it. Then, she opened the pot of honey. The sweet smell filled the air. She held up her wand, dipped it into the honey, and pointed it at the pickle jar. Flibberty-gibbet, grow so bigot, she shouted, concentrating with all her might on the sweet, golden honey. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the jar began to glow. It shimmered with a golden light, and then, with a soft pop, it vanished. Professor Plum stood there, dripping with pickle juice, but completely free. Hooray! Shouted the knights. Dill the dragon did a happy loop-the-loop in the air. Professor Plum shook himself like a wet dog, sending droplets of brine flying everywhere. He smiled at Princess Pickle. Well done, Penelope, he said. You see? The most powerful magic of all isn't about shouting the right words. It's about taking responsibility, asking for help, and being truly sorry when you make a mistake. Princess Pickle beamed. She had made a huge, silly, pickle-sized mistake, but she had also learned a very important lesson. From that day on, she became the best magic student in the kingdom. She still loved pickles, of course, but when it was time for her magic lessons, she made sure to have a little snack beforehand, and she always paid attention. She learned that even the biggest messes can be cleaned up with a little bit of teamwork, a heartfelt apology, and maybe, just maybe, a pot of honey. And they all lived sweetly, and sometimes sourly, ever after. Thank you so much for watching this story. I hope you had as much fun as Princess Pickle, even with her big mishap. If you enjoyed our adventure in the land of gingerbread castles, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a big thumbs up. We have so many more stories to share with you. See you next time. Bye-bye.